Hello, welcome to Trust Your Glitter podcast. Today is going to be ASMR style because I'm moving with the vibes of the energy. So, normally I have a bunch of notes written out and I want everything to be perfect and like on point with dates and aspects, and I have all my ephemeris astrology stuff here and all my links and everything open because for those who are new to astrology or learning astrology, basically an ephemeris is like a map of the dates that we have and can see the changes, aka the transits of planets or asteroids, lunar cycles in the sky, and we also see the aspects, which is how the planets communicate to one another. So I have those open, but I went on a nature hike today to kind of get into the energy because this upcoming week between the 17th and 24th of December, the astrology is very... It's not that it was hard for me to feel, it's that this particular time of year is not really about the big grandiose aspects. And so when I was looking at the energy of 2023, we went on a roller coaster ride. There was so much happening in the world. There's so much still happening in the world. It's not going to stop. But I do want to say that because of this, I really wanted to look at the astrology and also look at what's being reflected and see how they correlate, because we are entering a new astrological season. We are also entering the time of Winter Solstice / Summer Solstice for those who live in the summer hemisphere. I saw there's a fire season in Australia right now, so I want to also honor those who are going through extreme heat right now. And for those on the northern hemisphere, we are going into the time of closing in and going inward into ourselves. And so as the winter solstice approaches and Capricorn season approaches this week, I want to also honor, we are honoring ourselves. We are honoring our needs, our bodies this week. So I'm going to approach this episode in a very different way. I have been doing tarot cards for pets for the holiday season, but I also need to honor my energy. And I do not pull tarot cards from a place of depletion. So where I feel joy today is just talking about astrology. So what I'm going to do with the remaining pet readings that I have scheduled for the podcast is I'm going to do it and combine it into an episode of its own. And so you still have time if you would like a reading for your pets, tarot cards for your pets. I might consider doing this just as an ongoing request. I'll see. I love to experiment, so if you would like me to pull tarot cards for your pets, I will be adding in additional episodes and probably bonus episodes that will not be on YouTube. They will be audio only for Spotify, and I will pull tarot cards, whether your pets are here on this planet or have crossed the rainbow bridge. You are absolutely welcome. Just DM me, Trust Your Glitter, Christy Bellich, or you can send an email, which is on my Linktree, which is Linktree/TrustYourGlitter. And under the booking form, just put tarot cards for pets. Tell me your pet's name. If you have a picture, that would be great. I do not require a picture. Oftentimes when I do tarot cards for pets, I'll see the animal's energy and I'll see what they have to say. Usually it's in a metaphor. I just spoke with a friend of mine, Eliza Einhorn, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, do you have any pointers for how I do readings? Because, her readings are very, we approach readings from a different perspective. So I was like, well, how do I do this in a different way? Because I'm very Sagittarian Aries. I'm very fire sign. And sometimes from the comedic side of me, I go off on a tangent, and that's kind of my style. So I'm trying to kind of really create a reading space that's more whole and fulfilling and sacred for people listening. And she was like, just let people know ahead of time that sometimes I go off on a metaphor vibe. And for me, that's how spirit speaks to me, is through metaphors, through symbols. And I'll be in a reading, and usually face to face it's fine, but the last few weeks I've been noticing like my metaphors have been a little bit too much, and probably because Mercury is kind of between Sagittarius and Capricorn. So just know my readings are from a space of love, and I'm just riding the wave of energy, but I also want to honor the fact that I'm going off on tangents at times. So as we approach this week ahead, just know that the tangent energy wants to become more embodied, succinct, grounded. However, we do have Mercury still in retrograde. Now, Mercury retrograde this week is re-entering the sign of Sagittarius. But Mercury does make a connection with the Sun in Capricorn. So we open up the week, we have a first quarter moon on the 19th at 27 degrees Pisces. For those working with moonifestation, the first quarter moon is the waxing quarter. So the waxing quarter means she's bringing in the light. She's becoming brighter and brighter by the day between the waxing first quarter moon going towards her fullness phase. She is getting more full of herself this week. This is important because it is a holiday season. And if you go back to my Thanksgiving episode, I do talk about family dynamics and setting boundaries. This holiday season, this week, so the 2 weeks that from last week, this week, so into early next week, there's a little bit of a sullen energy. There's a little bit of this nostalgia, and the holidays bring that in general. But this particular week, as we're going into the fullness of the moon, we're fully moving from Pisces waxing quarter, and then next week, the day after Christmas, for those who celebrate, we're going to have a full moon. So the lunar energy always speaks to us, but the lunar energy is kind of the last shakeup of 2023 that I think is that last, like, we're processing, we're in mental integration. And so there is a psychological element of feeling a little bit like on a lonely island this week. And it's supposed to be. We're in winter. We're heading into winter. So the 19th, we have this first quarter moon, which is a time when we're being asked what's inspiring us, what's bringing us towards alignment, especially coming out of the new moon. And we're gonna be, it might even be a week where you're just in your head, and that's okay. It's really kind of part of the energy. And so on the 20th, Vesta, who is the asteroid of home and hearth, this is important to note because next week's full moon is in the sign of home and family, Cancer. So we're already feeling that pull and tug at our heartstrings, and Vesta retrograde enters Gemini. There could be a conversation around this. And the holidays bring up stuff anyway. But this is also when I'm looking at the global scale and looking at how everything kind of connects into one another. We can't deny what's happening in the world. I'm not going to get on a Sagittarian political soapbox, but what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it is there's a lot of people displaced from their homes, and this whole year and last few years has really brought up the energy of what is home, what is our connection to home. A lot of us were quarantined to homes. Some of us couldn't be quarantined to homes. Many people have been separated from families. All these sorts of things are kind of out on the table right now. So on the 21st, 10:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the sun enters Capricorn, and we are officially in the energy of the winter solstice. So part of these quarters, so we're in a new quarter. We went from the fall Libra quarter, so we had that seasonal quarter that brought us the eclipses. Prior to that, we had our summer solstice, which, think about what was going on with the earth then. We had a lot of fires, we had a lot of things going on environmentally. And if we think before that, previously, from the spring equinox, we had eclipses, we had a whole bunch of stuff going on. So if we look at this and kind of break it up into cycles of 4, now we're heading into the 4th quarter, and that takes us into, between now and the spring, we're prepping for a pretty mighty eclipse season. So if I'm looking at this from a solar and lunar perspective, I opened up, and let me get this chart open, the chart of the the solstice. And the winter solstice, I think, is very interesting because not even an hour prior, the moon is void. And a void moon is when the moon is changing signs and also doesn't really connect with any major points or planets. So the moon is void from Aries to Taurus, and is at 0 degrees Taurus at the time of the winter solstice. And the reason why I looked at this was I wanted to get more detail about what this quarter, so between the 21st of December into the 21st, 22nd of March. So this is this quarter that we're looking at. I wanted to understand the theme, because we're looking at a global shift. And so as I'm looking at a global shift, I'm also thinking, yes, Capricorn season is telling us to go inward, honor our body, mind, soul, integration, meaning that alignment where we're sitting in this very meditative spot. The sun and moon are both in earth signs at this time. So, and at the very early degree. And then the next day after the winter solstice, we have a Cazimi, which is a solar conjunction, meaning the sun is connected to another planet at a specific degree. So they're at the same degree. It's like they're hugging each other. So we have this Cazimi between Mercury and the sun in Capricorns. And Mercury is going back to this point in retrograde. So if we think of, like I said, the hands on the clock being set backwards, here's the sun going forward, and then here is the hand of Mercury going backwards. And they meet in the sky, and let me see if there's a time listed with this Cazimi. Cazimi time. It is at 1:54 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 22nd. So the day before we have the solstice, and then we have this Cazimi. So this Cazimi between the sun and Mercury holds an energy for us for the next December, January, February, March. So between now and March, we're really being asked to step up for ourselves. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. And when I look at the sun and moon, Taurus is about leaning into personal sovereignty. And so the trine, it's called a trine, when their elements are the same and they're at very, very close degrees. In this case, they're at the same degree, 0 degrees, Capricorn Sun, 0 degree Moon, Taurus. This is a higher lesson of choosing yourself over that bullshit. Now, when I look at this on a global scale and I'm like, how does this reflect into all the chaos that's going on in the world? Asking us to slow down, asking us to sit with ourselves, asking us to really reflect and think about what we're doing in the world. Because this is very self-serving, in service to your energy, in service to your body, in service to holding your own, in service to finding your power. So then I look at this energy of the solstice. The Sun and Mercury are in sextile. So that's friendship signs to Saturn and Pisces. You can't heal from an empty space. You can't heal from a place of overgiving. And this is very poignant to the holiday season. You can't heal from a space of constantly denying your needs in order to fulfill a role. I am not a huge fan of the royal family. Colonizers, all that bullshit. But what I will say is I just started watching the Meghan Markle and Harry, the Meghan and Harry documentary. I'm not all the way through. It's like a docuseries. I was actually quite impressed. I know a lot of people make fun of a lot of things, but I actually was super impressed by the documentary. I'm only on episode 4, but I'm digesting things from a historical perspective in the way that cultural roles are sold to society. And how the victim-savior codependent complex starts with regimes. And I'm looking at the perspective of like the UK, which I think is like a Capricorn Cancer or Cancer Capricorn. And the United States is a Cancer Sun. So we're on that cardinal sign dynamic of this energy of, here's the great mother, God bless the queen, like all this stuff. And I'm looking at this from a perspective of like this victim savior thing of like branching out to all these colonized territories. And here you have this family dynamic shaken up by two people who really seemingly, watching the documentary and also looking at the chart of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, they have a Pluto moon conjunction in their relationship. They're vibing, they're on vibes together. They are connected. They are glued together with love. So when I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the documentary and I'm looking at the relationship dynamics and I'm checking off the list of okay, they're respecting one another's sovereignty. They're respecting one another as a couple. They're respecting one another on how much trauma both of them have been through. They're respecting one another on learning, the dynamics of society and how the branches of this monarchy, are they real? Is this in service? For example, if the monarchy were to travel to a place that it colonized and serves that place, is it service? Is it service or is that codependency? I promised I wouldn't get too Sagittarian on this, but I have to, and just be like, this is what we're asking in our lives, but we're also seeing this reflected in society. What we're seeing on a global scale, is this service, codependency? How is this reflecting in our personal, deepest core of our being? I do think that our familial relationships do reflect the same thing that's going on in the political world. I think our outer and inner worlds are all the same. We are all this freaking connected being, Saturn and Pisces. And we're going to feel this very deeply next week because there's going to be squares to Neptune again. We had squares to Neptune over the weekend. So if you were a little bit emo or just feeling like those tears well up for no reason, Neptune has been activated. There have been activations to the Neptunian, what is our purpose energy. And so we're going to be preparing for that this week. And so the best way to prepare this week is to really, really honor your sacred time alone. If you are having a ritual for the winter solstice, do how your energy feels most grounded. Because this is really about taking care of yourself. If I were to design a perfect ritual, it would be to sit in the forest, under a tree, in just the energy of the earth. To really be held by the earth. Because there's no frills here. This is legit just letting the earth hold and guide you and be your shepherd, or however you want to translate it. And so that's how I would craft a perfect ritual, just in nature, in silence, in your own energy, being your own damn self. And also, as we finish out the week, Mercury Retrograde re-enters Sagittarius. So we do get that sparkle of the bigger mercurial going off on a metaphorical storytelling ride again. But with the conjunction, the Cazimi of the Sun and Mercury, there is this like deep silence to be respected this week, the primordial silence. Now, a lot of this is just me not going in order and just kind of feeling the energy, but I do want to honor the formal aspects this week as well. So I do want to say, for those who want to stick around and hear the more formal translation of the aspects, I'm just going to go date by date. And this is just, so I do want to honor that on the 16th of December, we had this Sun square Neptune. And the Sun being in Sagittarius square Neptune, we're going to see this again with Mercury, and it's going to be next week. So take note of any confusion, any just feeling lost at sea type energy, because that's going to be a theme with our upcoming full moon next week, and also a theme for those who celebrate the holidays. So just know that if you're going into a family situation, your family's also going to be feeling the square to Neptune as well. And if you have any family members that just are constantly in a confusing connection with you, that confusing connection is going to play out very poignantly during the holiday season. Then on the 17th, so as I record this, Venus in Scorpio is quincunx Chiron in Aries. I'm going to view this as, Chiron-tastic next year. So anytime I see aspects to Chiron, I would say just take note of what your overall perspective in healing has been in relation to taking authority in your life. This can be with romantic partnerships. This can also be just you taking a stand and being like, this no more. I've already been through a Venus retrograde and I'm not doing this no more. So that's one of the themes that can be coming up over the last few weeks of 2023. Mercury is trine. So Mercury in Capricorn in retrograde is trine to Jupiter in Taurus. Now, I also want to note with the solstice, the conjunction is wide-ish, right? With the moon, and Jupiter is there. So there is also this theme of, I'm tired of using the word benevolence, so I'm trying to think of another word. But there is also this theme of a gift, or being gifted, or receptivity, harmony, generosity as well. And yes, it's a season of giving, but I also would say, this is a really good time to speak your needs. And I think that is really good between the 17th and 24th. On the 19th, Mercury retrograde is sesquiquadrate Uranus. So anytime I see a sesquiquadrate or semi-square, how I translate that is tension. I would say the tension is just need for stability versus the fact that you can't control everything. So the element of surrender with the solstice is just about sitting there and saying, my hands are up to you. My hands are up to you, universe, nature, Gaia, goddess, mother, love. Like, you got me, you're holding me. I have to just step back and surrender. So step back and surrender and sit in your I am energy. It can be hard, but the North Node is in Aries. So it's like, you are blank. So as I say, I am blank. Speak it and it becomes it. Mercury semi-square, but it takes time. Mercury semi-square Venus, the 20th. So again, there is tension with needs and wants and those that are tugging at your energy. With Capricorn, it's going to be, we're going from this, I'm not saying anything against Sagittarius, but Sagittarius energy can kind of be all over the place. And so Capricorn is honing it in, that goat that wants to climb the mountain, rock by rock. Let me see if the 21st, Venus is opposite Uranus. I like oppositions. I like to look at the signs the oppositions are taking place. So, like me who talks too fast, this is saying like Uranus is a little bit chaotic in general, even in the sign of Taurus. With Venus opposite in Scorpio, you might have to kick, like, it's an aspect. It's not going to be the whole week, but with the solstice, and I feel slower when I tap into this, right? So when I look at this, I'm like thinking Scorpio. And this goes for if you're reading your natal chart and you have an opposition. You want to look at this, look at the elements, and feel into it. So Venus is this love, heart, like energy. She's just like, let's love, let's be in pleasure. In the sign of Scorpio, dark depths, kind of sullen, kind of emo. She's reflecting in. So if you think of looking into a mirror, her mirror is Uranus and Taurus. And she's like, okay, Uranus, you're unpredictable. You don't provide me with the stability that I thought you provided me with. And yet I need to actually move forward in the next 24 hours. But I know, so I'm doing like role playing here, but she's like, but I know that this influence is going to be until about March. So her job in our lives, the job is saying your self-worth, your self-value, your self-respect is getting shaken up for the better. And there's a lot of other transits and planets that are reflecting into this. You know, we're looking at a microcosm of a macrocosm here. But this is how I'm translating the dynamic, because we're looking at an exact opposition with our heart's needs. So I do want to honor that as well this week. Are there any other aspects that I want to look at? Mercury sextile Saturn. This is also at play with the sun, with the solstice. I love it. I'm here for it. It's about service. It's about kindness, compassion. Then we have Mars quincunx Uranus, Mars in Sagittarius. This is also that energy of Mars wants to run. The weird part is Mars wants to run, Uranus wants to shake things up. Uranus and Taurus wants to shake things up. This is where the translation also has its giving. We want freedom, but we also want stability. So I like this because it's going to take us into next year. It's going to take us into like, we want freedom, but we also want peace. We want freedom, but we also want cohesion and heart connection. Now, if we look at this on a grander scale, we're seeing this on a very dramatic level. And this is why astrology is so beautiful. We have Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter. Mars in Sagittarius sesquiquadrate Jupiter on the 22nd. Now, pay attention to Mars. Mars plays a role next week as well. Mars is an action planet. Intuitively, I don't feel like the news stories are going to have a dramatic shift. I think it's just going to be building chaos. So I don't want to put a prediction out there this week. But I do want to say that as we look at Mars, we also want to look at how decisions are being made by people that don't live in places that those people are affected by. Venus quincunx the North Node on December the 23rd. So Venus and the North Node are both Martian influenced, and Venus in Scorpio is Plutonic and Martian. So the North Node is in Aries and the South Node is in Libra. This is about finding value in our independence. And this is going to continue. So this is a quarterly thing. And then on the 23rd, Mercury in Sagittarius is semi-sextile to Pluto. And I like this because this does deepen the layers to what we learned on the solstice energy itself. So if you're sitting and did any sort of meditation, this is where you're going to get some, okay, I get it, aha, all right, it's not exactly how I saw it, but I'm going to process it anyway. And it could even be stuff from like way back when, decades ago, a decade ago, a little over a decade ago. So you might be having that stuff, that shaking the layers stuff come through. Sometimes Capricorn, and I learned this, sometimes when you have a lot of energy in earth signs, Taurus and Capricorn being that solstice, it doesn't process through immediately. It takes a little bit for it to come up. And I like that we have it a couple days after. And then, is there anybody else I want to talk about? The sun is sextile to Saturn, the 24th, specifically influenced by the solstice. So, overall, I'm going to look at this from a broader perspective. Overall, we're looking at mind, body, spirit, soul alignment over a quarterly process. What is tangible? How are we looking at our physical safety versus our big dreams? The themes coming up are also receptivity, sovereignty, and over the next 2 weeks, we're also going to be looking at the element of what really truly nurtures us, our time, how we spend our time, what we're doing with our physical body. Are we nurturing ourselves? So I want to say thank you so much for listening to Trust Your Glitter podcast. And I love doing this podcast. If you have any questions for me specifically, you can find me on Linktree. I have all my links on how to contact me, book with me, just send me general information. That is Linktree/TrustYourGlitter. Again, Linktree/TrustYourGlitter. Thank you so much and happy holidays.